Those of you who watch these devotions faithfully know how much I speak about joy. I've done that recently. We're doing that even this week. But I think it's also very important, as I've mentioned before, to note that a third of the Psalms in the Bible are laments, and that God has, even in God's wisdom, included a whole book in the Bible called Lamentations. And it's really important to understand that God knows that all of us are going to go through times and seasons, and for some of us, it may even be years of what feels like suffering, hardship, physical distress, persecution. We know from the Bible that many faithful people have been imprisoned and put in jail and beaten and suffered in countless ways. And so, in the wisdom of the Lord, there's a whole book in the Bible called Lamentations. And we can think of in our own lives, in periods of history in different nations and parts of the world, where lamenting is the only appropriate response to the tragedy of violence, of evil, of sin, of wickedness that is afflicting innocent people. And we see that even in different parts of the world today. And in Lamentations, though, in the midst of this pouring out one's heart and soul to God, crying out for deliverance, for healing, for change, we hear these words, a reminder in Lamentations chapter 3, verses 22 and 23. The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. One of the challenges when we're hurting, especially when something goes on and on for a prolonged period, it could be weeks or months or even years, is we can start to question God's existence, God's care, God's faithfulness, God's power, because after all, if God is actually there, if God is real, if God hears our prayers, if God cares and God is powerful, why, oh why, oh why do you let this situation continue? And this has been a cry that faithful people have made for literally thousands of years. And so in the midst of that, the book of Lamentations encourages us, first of all, to know it's okay to lament. We don't have to be joyful 365 days a year, because there are simply seasons when lamenting is the only appropriate response. And I hope just hearing that today will be helpful and affirming for some of you. In the midst of those periods when we are lamenting, Lamentations reminds us to go back and to remember each day that God's steadfast love, it never ceases. It's still there. God's mercies are new every morning, and we're invited, even in the midst of a season of lament, to look for God's mercy and God's love all around us.